Sure. So why don't we go ahead, those of oops, somebody's mic.
I think we're good.
Okay. I saw some travelers, and let me see if I can make my screen a little bigger. So we'll take a minute and let you introduce yourselves, tell us where you're joining from quickly, because then we're going to get to the authors and hear from them. So Kathy, you're first on my screen.
I'm just a traveler, and I live in San Diego.
And you're not
That's
just
beautiful.
a traveler.
And yeah, you're not just a traveler. I already, yeah, you've got great tips. And it's Krissa? I'm sorry.
Krissa. Yeah.
Krissa, thank you.
I'm in the Pasadena area, kind of new here, just over a year.
Nice.
Welcome.
Thanks for joining. And I think I see Lisa.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, my computer camera was saying no, so I had to get on my phone.
It's okay. I like the angle. It's okay. And where are you joining from?
Oh, sorry. Oh, wait a sec. Oh, so I gotta go.
There you go.
I'm all freaked out because my laptop was being weird. I'm joining from the southwest coast of Washington State.
Oh, nice. And I bet it's a little cooler there, so we're lovely to have you.
Yes, it is very nice here.
Oh, good. And then did I miss somebody?
She was here and there was a Stephanie, and now I don't see where.
Oh, okay.
I just
Thought I made my screen bigger. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and because we have 7 authors here tonight, they have some fabulous stories to tell. But first, I just want to go around and have them state their name and the name of their book to tease us, and then we're going to come back and hear more. So, Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki Page, and the name of my book is 228 Days Trapped in Paradise.
Wonderful. That's exciting. Linda King.
Hi, I'm Linda, and my book is Antics Abroad.
Antics Abroad.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that very well.
Antics Abroad.
Yeah.
And so we'll hear more from Linda in a minute. I hope our connections are good. Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Testa, and I wrote a book called RVing for Newbies, the manual.
Yay.
Wonderful. And Dawn?
Dr. Dawn Menge, and I wrote Queen Vernita's Land of Little Rain.
Wonderful. Sheila Stone.
Hi, I'm Sheila Stone, and my book is The London Explorer.
Sounds great. Lea Lane.
Hi, I'm Lea Lane. This is my travel memoir, Places I Remember, Tales, Truths, Delights from 100 Countries. And I just want to say I also do the audio version myself. It's in print and audio.
Oh, beautiful. And Cindy Coan.
And I have just published my book too, Linda, Slow Travel. It's a how-to book, and we'll talk more about my slow travel book in a minute too. So, there we go.
All right. All right. And Lynn and Kim, thank you for joining us. We just had the authors introduce themselves, but now we're going to go around the room and let them share a little tidbit about their book. And so we're going to go back and start with Nikki.
Awesome. Okay, it's so cool to be with you, fellow travelers. So my book is 228 Days Trapped in Paradise. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. I kind of got it like a weird angle. The Diary of an Expat Chica in Costa Rica. So it was the book that I almost didn't publish. When I started writing it well, let me give you a little bit of background first. Before 2020, me and my husband and my youngest children, we were expats in Costa Rica. And so when 2020 hit, let's just all agree as travelers that the world has changed. And that's kind of like what this talk's about. I was in Costa Rica and my husband was in the United States when the president of Costa Rica announced that he was closing land, sea, and air borders. And so we had to make some split decisions about life. It was 24 days. So what does an author do for 24 days when she's told you get to like sit on your porch and like do whatever you want? Oh man, I get excited. I write and I write some more. And like, I'm sure all you other authors are like, yeah, 24 days. I could kick out a lot. Like I had some publishing deadlines coming up and I was I bumped some of them up. We were gonna crank some things out. So first 24 days, I got this. 24 days, 30 days, 60 days. And then what happens when the world really starts changing? And the visa that you're holding in your hand and the passport that you're holding in your hand no longer gets you in and out of where you need to go. And it no longer allows you to travel. and it no longer allows you to get home to your friends or your family or stateside. And when I mean locked, trapped, locked, I couldn't use the word locked because I would have got kicked off social media. But so we use the word trapped. When I got trapped, because it really was, I was trapped kind of like in my own emotions, and my world really did change during that period of time. But literally there was a period of time that we could not fly home if I had to get home. And that kind of changes your approach as a traveler. I mean, it makes you look at some things a little bit different. And so I write a lot about that. And I write about kind of the changes that I experienced, because instead of the travel groups that I was attending during that period of time where everybody was like traveling and having fun, I was attending groups where people were stuck. And these are things that, you know, I don't want to go back to the pandemic because I would like to think we're all over that. However, travel will never be the same. And we have to keep that in mind as travelers. And we have to really keep that in mind when we're getting ready to leave our country. And so I talk a lot. When I chose to publish it after we got back to the States, it was because a lot of the things that we experienced being locked into zones. I mean, let me tell you, as a traveler, being locked into zones and being told what you can shop for makes traveling a whole different kind of view and different kind of intake. And so I write a lot about that. I also am I try to be transparent and write a lot about my family, because we did a lot of transition during that time. You know, I watched my husband and me, we worked together all the time, but the pandemic affected him differently than me, even though we were kind of experiencing it the same. And so I write a lot about those personal feelings too. I try to capture that. But mostly I try to talk about things that you should be aware of and things that can change instantly. I also talk about you two wonderful ladies who had me on your show. You're in here. So the design, as the guest speaker, I talk about my crazy morning trying to get to you, and my husband did this beautiful artwork. I don't know if you can see, but I also include things like recipes and stuff. So I've got the recipes and stuff. So it's a lot more than just, you know, being locked in the country, but it does talk about the 228 days that I couldn't get back to my home country. So that's kind of my book. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. I think we're going to drop a link down here too. So feel free to read it and give me a review. And I think that's like my 5 minutes. I tried to go as quick as I could, ladies.
No, you're perfect, Nikki. Thank you. Oh my gosh, what a story. Oh my gosh. And I'm sure people are going to ask questions at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and Linda King, share about your
Hi,
book.
everyone. Antics Abroad. This is a great little book. So it's full of travel short stories, and it's about situations that I found myself in overseas, abroad, but also the people I've met and their situations. So it's a combination of the two. So just as a little tidbit, have you ever wanted to experience firsthand what it feels like being detained at the Chinese border? How about being stranded in the middle of a hurricane or getting lost in the outback? That's probably just a little tidbit on some of the stories in there. And yeah, this has been percolating for a little while. So I think over our downtime when we were at home, I sort of reflected on some of the sort of crazy and unbelievable experiences that I'd had traveling. For me, travel, if it goes perfect, is a bit boring. I think the things that go wrong make it more exciting. And you learn more about yourself also when that happens. So the book's really about that. And probably one of my first chapters, I've got a little bit of an excerpt. So I'll read you out that. So, salty tequila covered lips, empty warm shot glasses, memory fading fast. You could probably fill in the blanks, but if you want to read a little bit more, you can find those things. That I'm traveling throughout Asia, Europe, the US, Mexico, and also Middle East and Australia. So it touches on a lot of different countries. And yes, does it like it's a memoir, travel memoir, I should say. So that is available on Amazon now, and probably expanded distribution, I think, other Barnes & Noble and some of those other places. but I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Linda. That's beautiful. And I'm sure it already just from those tidbits, just kind of like Nikki, some of these things that as travelers happen to us, or we think, oh my gosh, the world is going to end and my travel experience is just to heck with it. So I love these stories. So Joe, you're up next.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So this is my book, RVing for Newbies, the manual. It's nice and red, so it sticks out like a sore thumb. That was totally intentional. So I'm about everything RV, and I spend quite a bit of time on Facebook groups talking to people who are newbies. And the RV world exploded once COVID hit, because people were like, I don't want to stay in a hotel. I don't want to stay in an Airbnb. I don't know how clean it is. So people ran out and bought RVs. And a lot of them were completely clueless. They're like, okay, I have this. Now I got to a campground. I don't know what to do next. And so that's what my book covers. Things like, you're at the campground. How do you check the electrical pedestal to make sure that it's not going to burn up your RV? How do you make sure that the water that's going to go into your RV is going to be safe for you to drink? And it covers all of those kind of things. I think it's total of 20 chapters in the book. And then for my people that buy the book, I then have virtual chapters that are on the website that they get a key to and let them be able to look at that. So I can continue to add to the book per se virtually, and all of my people that buy it get all of the other chapters that I write from here on forward for free.
Wow.
One of the other things that I do that is, it kind of got me into this is I do RV inspections. So I'm busy like a madman right now. I'm turning down like 4 or 5 inspections a week because I don't have enough time to do them all. And when I'm the only inspector right now that's active in Ohio, I got the whole state and then some. So that's pretty much what all there is about my book. You get my beautiful smiley face on the back. This is a spiral bound version. I also have a paper bound version. Amazon does not offer spiral bound. And when I was putting this together, I had a lot of people go, how can I get one where I can lay it flat or bend it over? Because at the end of every chapter is a notes page. So you can write all the notes from the chapter about your particular RV and the things that you need to check and do.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so.
All
Can I say exactly, I think you left out the part that you started the book because you actually broke things in your own RV. So just those personal experiences, I think.
Sure, I'll take a minute to talk about that. I bought my first RV 15, almost 16 years ago. We paid $5,000 for it. It was a 1987 motorhome made by Mallard. I knew nothing about RVs, and I completely ruined it, literally destroyed it. It was from things like on the roof, there's all this sealant and things you need to do. I did none of it. So it was completely ruined, water damage all over the place. And I literally gave it away to a guy who was a carpenter and signed the title to him. He gutted it and rebuilt the entire thing from the inside out. Yeah. And they gave me a tour of it when they were done, and it was beautiful. So yeah, that's how I got into this. I ruined an RV and said, I need to start doing my research before we buy the second one.
And that's why I think it makes the book so detailed, just, looking through it page by page. So I think that makes a huge difference.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Dawn, you're up next. And I think you have, I'm sorry, I skipped over Kent, and I believe he's here too. So I don't know how you want to split your time or both share a little about the book and how it came. You've got your 5 minutes.
Well, it actually started with Kent. We started it 10 years ago. It's based on Hacienda in Tucson, Arizona. And I actually went there because of Kent. So I'm going to let Kent talk about the book.
Okay.
I was muted. My apologies. That happens in Zoom like every time I get on. So yeah, Donna and I wrote the book and based it at a place called Hacienda Linda. It's a B&B outside of Tucson, up in the hills. and it's just a beautiful place. So Dawn had been writing books about Queen Vernita. So I thought that Queen Vernita might need a trip to Tucson. So Dawn and I got together and worked it out. And there are little bits and pieces of not only Tucson, but the surrounding Native American tribe, and even out to the rest of the world, because we include something about Diwali festival from India. And so bringing India into Tucson was quite fun and challenging.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I had lived about a decade in Tucson, so we went around and in the book and did different spots, mainly around the hacienda. But there's a mission that was built back in the 1700s that's there, that the characters take a journey to. Very fun. I will let Dawn fill in the rest.
This is Diwali, and this is actually all of the characters in my book. This is my 14th book, I believe, and the characters are real people in my life. And this was actually, I teach special education, and this is our official, who is from India. So we all got on a Zoom and we talked about how she grew up, and we had the fights at the hacienda, and learned a little bit about Diwali. And this is actually a picture that she took from her front yard. It's just beautiful.
Yeah,
Are amazing. I suggest everybody go there.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the photos, if they were photos or paintings, because it's a little hard to see, obviously, on the Zoom.
It's an actual photo that she took. And all of my illustrations come from pictures that we put together. Like this is a background that she took in the desert, and we added Kentish Chenga, and Linda is in the book, and this is actually a story that he had about a little owl that he saw in the desert, and we included that in the book.
Oh, that's beautiful. So even though it's kind of aimed at children, it seems like you could almost use it a little bit as a guide too, since you're highlighting a place you stayed, some places to actually see.
Yes, it's all about the desert, the surrounding desert, and we've added a lot of history. And all of my books are about places that I've actually been, and it has a lot of culture and the surrounding history and some of the flora and fauna. And so I've done one on the coastline, and people have from Arizona, because I live in California, have actually used it to take trips up the coastline, and they give it to their children and they study it as they're going up.
Nice. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Dawn. So I've got Sheila Stone up.
Hi, I'm Sheila Stone. I'm the author of The London Explorer. Now, London is not very exotic to most people, and certainly there is no lack of information on London. The problem is that there's too much information, not that there's not enough. And I ran into this when I first started going there, and I was trying to figure out where to stay and everything. And so this book is in response to that. I do a deep dive into London history, which is over 2,000 years old, or almost 2,000 years old. I try to give it the Cliff Notes version, so it's kind of hitting the high points and only talking about the monarchs that you've actually heard of or you should have heard of. Yeah, I talk about where to stay and why. I talk about what to do and why. And when you're at a place, it gives you information about what to see in, like if you go to Westminster Abbey, it is beautiful. It is overwhelming. Even for a history nerd like me, it's like, oh my gosh. So this hits some of the high points. It also talks about what not to do. You're welcome. Things that I've learned the hard way, that this is not a good thing to do. For instance, the London Eye, unless you're really into being in a very small place with 25 people taking selfies for 40 minutes and to pay for the privilege. Not recommended. Some people really love it. And if that's really something you want to do, you should do it. But if it isn't, then maybe you shouldn't. Don't do things just because, oh, it's big and it's there and I need to do it, because that's what people do when they go to London. London has so much stuff. It is layer upon layer upon layer of history. Everything from a Roman temple of Mithras, which has now been turned into an interactive, fully immersive situation, which I'm sure Mithras would be pleased, to like the Museum of the Home, which is wonderful, and most people have never even heard of it, but it has 11 rooms, all done up the way middle-class Londoners would have lived over the course of 400 years. Now, usually if you go to something like this, it's the aristocracy, which is fine, but I personally am pretty sure my family was not aristocracy. I mean, we were the maids, we were, you know, the serfs. I hold no expectations of anything different. And this gives you some information on how, you know, regular folk lived. Places to stay. I stay in Earl's Court, and the reason I stay there is because it makes sense. It's easy to get around. It's less expensive. I talk about my favorite hotel, which is inexpensive, and it has rather large rooms, and it's got a kitchenette in each room. That's major when you're traveling. And I found this by accident, and I absolutely love it. I'm going back there soon because it's a great place to stay. So yeah, that's basically my book. It talks about a lot of different things, but basically it's someone that has been there, that I do tours there, so I know the area really well. I've done a lot of deep dives, and it's someone that's kind of down to earth and friendly and fun, taking your hand and sort of showing you around. So that's mine.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Lea Lane.
Okay. I'll describe my memoir, Places I Remember, Tales, Truths, Delights from 100 Countries, with a Kirkus review that I received. It says, quote, "This is a beautifully balanced memoir that packs a wealth of personal experience, charming watercolor illustrations based on Lane's photographic travel archive, my photos, complement her memories. Laconic yet thoughtful commentary throughout. The unconventional but fun A to Z format allows the reader to work through it from cover to cover or to dip into it at any point for travel inspiration. She offers candid snippets about her personal life, I sure do, and travel partners, unfortunately. Lane's sharply observant yet intimate writing will transport readers to places all over the world." So I'm very pleased with that review. To elaborate a little bit, the memoir has won several awards, including from the Society of American Travel Writers. It covers my life through 100 countries where I traveled. I've traveled to about 110 actually, so I left 10 out. It shows the ups and downs, funny situations, thoughtful, poignant ones, romances, stories, and vignettes. And it has settings of 100 countries I visited in this beautiful world. And some vignettes are short and surprising. I'm going to read you one. It's very short. It's about Malawi. And as you can see, there are illustrations throughout based on my photos. They're beautiful. Greg Carell did them. I should give him credit. This is Petra, for example, just beautiful. Anyway, this is Malawi, and I will read it very quickly. It's called He Never Calls, He Never Writes. Remember that title? Okay. I was in Malawi in 2004 with a group of journalists. We visited Lake Malawi and held some meetings with government officials to help them with their tourism industry, which was minimal because of poverty and the scourge of AIDS, which had hit African countries hard. "You need more directional signs on your roads," I offered. "We had many signs," said the officials, "but people stole them to make shelters." Tough reality. So I hardly expected the sweet surprise of the following night, a short tale befitting the duration of the experience. A Malawi dance group was performing at an official function. A man in white asked me to join him in a ceremonial dance. I was reluctant, but threw off my shoes, joined the man, and moved with him as best I could to throbbing African drum beats. The dancer gestured. I gestured back. He sat me down and danced around me for a few minutes, waving his hands above his head. And I remained seated, but copied his hand movements. This went on for several moments, waving and tapping my feet, mirroring his hands as he whirled. Suddenly, everyone clapped and laughed. It was the end of the dance, so I stumbled exhausted as a group of people standing on the sidelines the whole time had big smiles remaining on their faces. "What's so funny?" I asked. I knew I wasn't much of a dancer, but still. "Oh," an official smiled. "Your new name is Ngunda. You dance very well together. You two are now married."
Oh.
Remember the title. He never calls, he never writes. Anyway, that's one of many, many vignettes of 100 countries. I would like to say, I mentioned earlier, I have the audio version, which I do myself. And I'd also like to say that I have a podcast now based on this book called Places I Remember. And it's on Spotify and Apple and anywhere you listen. I'm very proud of it. It's every other week. And I hope you follow that one too. But it was a great fun to write this book. It's a lifetime of travels. I've been traveling since the 70s. And I've been blessed with it. So that's my book.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. All right, Cindy, it's your turn.
I was leaning back, getting all into it.
I know, me too.
I was enjoying it. All right, so mine is a how-to book similar to others. It's a travel guide. It's called Slow Travel. And this came out in June, I think, is when I first published it. But it's kind of been a few years of making. I did my first big long-term trip in 2016 when I traveled for 10 months between 2016 and 2017. And when I talk about that, I get a lot of questions about how do you travel for 10 months? That sounds crazy. And what did you do? And how much does it cost? And you must be wealthy, a millionaire, to be able to do these things. And of course, I have lots of answers to that, which is I'm not, and it wasn't, and it was a ton of fun. And so as part of that, I put together my tips and suggestions on what to do if you want to travel slow, long term. If you're looking to travel for more than a few weeks at a time, let's say you want to go to Europe for 5 months or for a few months in South America, and you want to spend the summer there. All of that's possible, and you do not need to be wealthy to do it. So I took some time and went through it. Mine is also just like Joe was saying, mine's the spiral bound because I wanted you to be able to use it as a workbook. There are worksheets in it to help you plan your long-term trip, so you can open it up and write in it. It's available in printed version and then as an ebook online with Amazon if you want that. But I thought I would share like some of the things that I cover in the book. A couple of the things I'm going to talk to you about what to do about your job if you're working. Share with you how to finance your trip, some of the ways you can save money before you go, while you're traveling, what you can do about that, how to deal with the questions you're going to get from your family and friends who are going to say, "You're going to be gone for how long?" My mother's response was, "You're going to just be homeless for 5 months?" It's like, yeah, pretty much. I'm going to do that. There's a lot of questions that come in, and a lot of those questions from family and friends come from a place of caring and concern. So, I'll go over some of the things that you need to think about what's going to happen to your home, what's going to happen to your pets, what about your family, what about medical insurance. There's a lot of questions about what do you do when you're traveling overseas and you're not at home. What about your mail? There's lots of things to consider. And as I said, there's some worksheets in the book to help you plan your trip, to think about it. One of the things I did want to share is when I traveled for that duration of time, I quit my job and then I traveled for 10 months, but I didn't not work. I worked while I was traveling, and I worked in exchange for my room and board. I worked in exchange for other things. And I thought I would just kind of give you a tidbit. Some of these tips are in the book of what you can do when you're traveling. Obviously, folks know you can probably volunteer, but if you look online for volunteer trips, they're going to charge you money for volunteer trips, which seems a little crazy. There are websites and places where you can work in exchange for your room and board, and I'll talk about some of those in the book. But I did things like dog walking. So let me tell you a little bit about dog walking. Pet sitting is something else I did too, but I joined an online app called WAG. So if you're familiar with it, there's two of them actually, WAG and Rover. I was staying in Manhattan at the time. I wanted to be there over Christmas and be there for the ball drop. So I spent 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, I think, in Manhattan. And what am I going to do in Manhattan for that period of time? By the time, you know, you kind of looked at I've been there many times, so I'd seen most of the sites. And of course, you can only go out to dinner, and it's an expensive place to be so many times. So I signed up on one of these apps to dog walk. It doesn't pay a ton. I got paid $15 to $25 for a 30-minute walk for a dog. But it paid for my lunch. I also got to peek inside a Manhattan home, or 7 or 8, because they're asking you to come in their home and get their dog and take that dog for a little walk around the neighborhood. So I got a chance to explore a neighborhood that I'd never seen before. It got me out of the house, got me moving, and it helped me fund my trip while I was there. I probably walked 30 dogs in Manhattan, and some of them, because I was there for so long, multiple times, had some really interesting adventures, meeting the dogs, the dog owners, going in and out of the different locations, hanging out at the dog park, things that I wouldn't have done if I were just a tourist. But there's lots of other ways that you can earn a little money. You can work in hostels. There's some websites to do that. You can work on cruise ships. There is a couple of places that'll ask you to deliver. You can do some delivering of packages. You can deliver food, pet sitting and house sitting. There's some of the other ways that I did it. There's a lot of exchange opportunities to be able to work. And so for me, being able to earn a little pocket money while I was there, as well as have an experience, was part of the travel part. So if you're, you know, looking to have a long-term trip, and travel for more than a few weeks at a time, the book should walk you through all the things you need to prepare for and help you plan through it. And like Joe, it's available in the printed version with this on my website, or you can pull it from Amazon as an ebook as well. I think you can also download it as a PDF as an ebook also. So that's my thing.
No, that's wonderful. Oh my gosh. So we still have, you know what? I think I'm going to ask if anyone has questions, and then we might have time to go around one more time and let everyone share about a book that they might write. So does anyone have questions?
There's been some chat.
Has there been some chat? Because
I haven't been watching because I was too engrossed in the
I
conversation.
know. Let me see if I see anything here. Otherwise, I'll just start back around and for any of the Lily, did you have a question, or I'm just seeing your hand waving. That's fine. Yeah, these are some fabulous books. I don't see any questions, but I'm going to go back to my list. Close this. And so for any of our guests, Kathy, Kim, Lynn, Lily, Lisa, I'm sorry, some of you joined a little late, so I didn't get to hear where you were joining from. If you had a book in you, what would it be about? Does anyone want to share? Everyone's quiet. All right, well, I'll go back around then and ask our authors, because I'm sure they keep thinking of other books that they would write. So Nikki, what if you were to write another book, what would it be about?
Ooh, I'm hoping I get to write my next one about Europe. And doing some solo traveling. I mean, that really is I have another one, but I can't, that's sitting on the editor's desk, but I can't talk about that yet. So, you know, it's coming, but yeah, it's a secret. That one's already written, but the one I'm looking at coming up, I really, fingers crossed, if this upcoming year plays out right, that I get to do more, Italy, London, Spain. I don't know where we're going to end up, but I hope we do more overseas traveling. So nice. I'm really looking forward to that. Now that the world has come out, and that was one of the things in my book. I include links and stuff that point you where I'm able to get the information to be able to know what new travel rules are. I mean, knowing those links and where to go and get the travel documents and the things like that. And I link all of that. So when you get on the ebook, it just like you click it and it goes there. And in the paperbacks and the hardcovers, it gives you the link addresses on those. So I'm hoping that's where I end up.
Yeah.
So where are you hoping to end up at?
So that sounds great, Nikki. That sounds fabulous. And I'm sure it is a lot of people with the what happened over the last couple of years. Exactly. They're thinking like, where could I have gone or where should I go? Or there's different ways now to do our life and our business, kind of as Cindy alluded to as well. I mean, the world is open and yet there are things you need to know so you don't get strapped, stuck, locked, stuck there as well. So. Linda, what would your next book be about without giving away something that's on an editor's desk?
Yeah, no, I've got another one ready for release, which is so it's the 5th book in my Smart Travelista series, which is separate to the Antics Abroad, which is how to travel with food allergies. So I'm a food allergy sufferer, and I'm bringing that out probably the end of this week. So doing a bit of a rapid release with 2 books at the same time on Amazon. But I have so many books still in the Smart Travelista series still to write. They're ideas at the moment. So I try and bring out 2 books a year, which so I'm up to the 6th book once this other one comes out. But yeah, I think there's so many travel topics to write about, April, so many. So I'll be going for quite a while, I think. But eventually, when I've got a bit more time, I really want to get into fiction as well, other than non-fiction. So I want to stretch myself as a writer. And I think, getting into different genres is always a challenge. So it will be the challenge for me.
That sounds fascinating. Yeah, now we got to have you back on to talk about the food thing too. Same with Nikki, this other Europe book. These are all fabulous. Joe, what's your next possible for a book?
Well, so I'm entertaining the idea because I've talked to a couple of people and they're like, I need more than what you give in the intro book. It's basically RVing 101. And so they've asked, can you take like a particular subject, like we'll just say RV refrigerators, expand on that, explaining the different types that some run on propane, some run on 120 volt AC, some run on battery, and expand the residential and those different types of refrigerators into what is all of the maintenance, not just the preventative maintenance, but if something goes wrong, how do I debug why the refrigerator isn't cooling or why the freezer is and the refrigerator is not? I'm thinking about doing a series of specialized books on various parts of an RV.
That's great. That's very cool, actually, because I mean, some people use their RV just recreationally, a weekend here or there, but other people are really seeing this as a new way to downsize and be mobile and again, live.
Yeah, and there's a lot of medical personnel, nurses in particular, that have become traveling nurses. They'll work 6 weeks at this place, they'll jump in their RV, they'll go to the next place, and they may work 6 or 8 weeks there. They get to see the country, they are able to travel, and they live out of them. So it's one of the things that if you live in I'm in a 1,300 square foot house, so it's not that huge. But if you're in a 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 square foot home and you try to go operate out of an RV, it's a bit of a challenge. It's like a small house living, because everything is condensed, and if you're not comfortable being next to your significant other on a more regular basis, this can be a real challenge for you.
That's great. Oh, I love that, Joe. Thanks. Dawn, what is I know you're always working on a series of books.
I'm actually going to New England with April over my fall break, and so I'm going to write a book on that. And next summer, I'm going to go to Italy to a writer's retreat. And so that will be a book. And then Kent and I are working on one, and I'll let him talk about that one.
Yeah, Kent.
About Death Valley.
Oh.
He's on mute. You're on mute, Kent.
Yeah. Yep.
Zoom got you again.
Every day, I swear, man, I start talking and I get all verbose and I look down and everybody's going like this. Dawn and I we're working on our next book together, and surprise, surprise, it's going to be about the desert. My grandfather and grandmother, who I unfortunately was never able to meet, drove from Los Angeles to Death Valley and back in 1932.
Oh,
That was before it was a national monument, before it was a national park, and before the roads were paved. So we have my grandmother's quote unquote diary. It's just it's 2 or 3. It's actually 4 pages, 4 notepad pages of my grandmother's writing about the details of the trip. It's fun, and so we're gonna intertwine that with Queen Vernita and a trip that she makes there.
oh, that sounds fabulous. I think that's beautiful, tying in that past story of your parents, your grandparents, and the
Grandparents,
what it was
thank
like.
you.
But yeah, your grandparents. Sorry, yeah, they're great grandparents. You look so young. No, that's wonderful.
Thank
Sheila,
you.
what's your next book?
Well, I have a book about ready to come out called Brits and Pieces. And basically it's history, it's different places you can go. It hits a little more on the north of England where I used to live. Yeah, that's that one. And then I've got another one that's almost finished called Using English to See the World, which is going to volunteer at English schools. There's one in Spain and Germany called Diverbo. There's another one in Central Europe called Anglophile. I've done both of them. They are amazing. So I'm doing a thing on that. And then the third one, because why not, right? Is on traveling to Japan. And I've done that a number of times. I hosted Japanese exchange students. My sons went on exchange there. I did undergraduate research there. And there is, going to Japan, there are a lot of things that are different. And it would be a way, just a simple, things to look out for, things to do. So it'd be more of a how-to book for going to Japan. And I think that one's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My books are available on Amazon, by the way. I forgot to say that.
Well, yeah, you got to say that. Yeah. And we're going to drop links to all of these wonderful authors and their books. And Lea, you've covered 100 different, 110 countries and all of the podcast and everything. But do you feel like you have another book that's yet to?
Yes, I'm only going to be 80 in August, so I have plenty of time, right?
Yeah.
Yes, always.
Well, I do have one. I have many essays that I've written, hundreds, and I'm going to put them together. Not so much travel, but the world of me. So that's coming, I hope, soon. I'm working on it right now, but they're written. I just have to put together. I do write 5 pieces a month for Forbes.com. on all aspects of travel, all travel. So I've been doing it since 2014. So if you go to the archives, you're going to see hundreds and hundreds of articles. So I do that every month. I'm busy. And
yeah,
my
you
podcast,
are busy.
my podcast, again, I'm so proud of it. Places I Remember with Lea Lane. It's about travel. And I have that every other week, anywhere you listen, Apple, Spotify, wherever. And so I'm busy. I'm keeping busy. And I hope I have lots more books in me.
Oh, I love it. Well, that is. Well, and you're writing, like you said, for Forbes. So, I mean, right there, you're pumping out more stories.
Pumping it out.
Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. Cindy.
I'm definitely doing solo travel, Nikki. So I've obviously my long-term trip I took in 2016 was solo. I took my very first solo trip in 2008. And the next book will be similar to slow travel, but focused on how to break out and do it the first time yourself, to travel alone. And for me, traveling alone is just going, right? So not necessarily traveling with the tour company or it's actually just picking a country and go there and figure it out when, I don't figure it out when I get there. I usually do a lot of planning ahead of time. I'm definitely a planner, but I figure it out on my own and I make those decisions alone. And I do really enjoy being alone. I love traveling by myself. And there are some cautionary things to be worried about, but most of the time it's just being brave enough to just do it by yourself. It really is that. So it will probably also be more of a how-to encouragement, inspirational book similar to the slow travel.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. So we still have time for a couple questions. Did I see somebody dropped a question into the chat, Cindy?
Right now, we just have
I know you-
commentary. Lots of
Okay.
folks listening. I mean, it's okay. We can end early if there's no questions. This is the first time we've done a book,
I know.
right? I am so inspired hearing from the other
I
authors.
know.
That these other authors can connect with each other as well, because there's a lot of synergy in knowing another author and the challenges that they've gone through. So
And we will post this in our Facebook group too. The Facebook group is the Travel Collective. So if you haven't found that group and you're on Facebook, we'd love to have you join there. Ask questions, interact. We have a lot of good conversations there. Our authors, I know, are in there and giving so many tips. I mean, just tonight, we got tips from Sheila and Cindy and Nikki. I mean, everyone. They gave us a tip just for free. We didn't even have to go download, buy their book or any of that. So I really think this is beautiful. So if you guys want to see more of these book events, please let us know. This is our first one, and Cindy and I have interviewed many authors over on our YouTube channel, which is also the Travel Collective. We'd love to get them onto the show again as well. So, and have all of these authors back and hear about that next book, because I'm already ready to like hear about the next book or the one that was written before the one they shared tonight. So.
Okay. I think we can probably then end if we don't have questions. I see.
Yeah, I think this has been wonderful. We'll drop all of the links onto we'll have this recorded. So for those that are seeing this on the replay, links will be in the comments. All of you authors are more than welcome to go and comment on the video as well. Thank you so much for giving your time this evening. Thank you, guests, for joining tonight. This was our first book event and it was a lot of fun. And I'm excited. I'm ready to go have another stack of books here, which I seem like I always do by my bedstand. So thank you so much to everyone. We have a coffee chat twice a month. Everyone's more than welcome. Thanks again.
Yep. Thank you very much. Have a great day, morning, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. Stay warm, Linda.
Bye.
Everybody.